Okay, so I will share a screen instead of from the book. I have a better one from Wikipedia. Time zones of the world.
Oh, cool.
Okay. So, Hashon Tikni, page 95. Standarti. In case you understand what Tikni means, now we understand. Sha'on Greenwich, Sha'on Olam. Kol Shnei Olam mechuvanim api hasha'on shel Greenwich. Everything works through Greenwich meantime. Api merchak shel kav ha'orech ha'mekomi Greenwich, based on the distance of latitude from Greenwich. Kovim, as Hashem Kamis, we determine the local hour. Kol malas orech, every degree of latitude is
4 dakot.
Well, 4 dakos. Okay. Okay, and so we're going to get the when we round off to whole hours, we get the standard clock, which we are sharing standard time zones of the world. And of course, Abasisim Dias Azman Pekador to Yom Shemesh, Azman Bo Mashkin Kador Sibu Vechot Sabib Tiro. So this is we read this last week, so I'll read this again. It's so each time zone is approximately 15 degrees. Because 360 degrees divided by 24 is 15 degrees, as we see in the depiction, which appears both on the page in the book, but more precisely on the Wikipedia image. This is adjusted significantly in order to go around things which need to be went around for convenience sake. For example, just random example. Most of Iran should actually be in the same time zone as Mauritius, but it seems that it's not in that time zone. It seems that it might even be in its own time zone, because it says exactly, if we look at it carefully, we will see that it is in a half-hour time zone, right? In other words, they made a pshara between 3 and 4. As a matter of fact, the 4 is way there's very little, which is actually in a 4-hour away from Greenwich time, plus 4 from Greenwich time zone. Izvek, Samara, UAE, and Oman, basically, and then Mauritius further south. But and Afghanistan is 4.5. So obviously there, and then Yekaterinburg and Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Pakistan are 5. So obviously there's a very there are a lot of flexibility, and they managed to put all of Europe basically in one time zone plus 1 from Greenwich. Okay, so et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so the Kinui Hashon Tikni be'Eretz Yisrael. Be'Eretz Yisrael Nagu b'Tchilas HaMea, at the beginning of the 20th century, they called the Kol Hashon Hashon Europei L'Ofi Kahir, the European clock by the horizon of Cairo. It was the same. It is the same time zone as Cairo. Okay, so the Karulo Gam Sha'on Rakevet. Shkenapiv Nikbud Zmanei Ansiot Ber Rakavot Haaretz. So that was the way they determined the train schedule. So it was Cairo mean time. Okay. Before the standard clock was accepted, they were local time. They go by the noon time. Mitzhar, which is a Hebrew word which I don't think anybody ever used in history. Sounds like a modern Hebrew word. Hameridian, that is probably the word which is actually used. Kav ha'orech. Okay, the meridian is what we call in English the latitude. Shamakom. of that place locally. Klamar Shah 12. Tzina et Shat Tzaraim HaMemutzat Shel Makom. The mean noon time. Shemus Shot Rachami came a Shah 24. Istamei Mazachit Shel Makom. That ceased. That was the end of the civil day. For Yiskili Mamachadash, a new civil day began. As long as the connections between the nations of the world were not developed, and they went slowly, there was not particular significance in the difference of time between place and place. Actually, it was way before the telephone and the radio, and it was the time zones were invented in America, if I recall correctly, because of the trains, in order to make universal train schedules across the country. So this is not accurate. Okay, so so once they had to make train schedules, and say tachbura miyirim, that's trains, has a built-in nizbal. It would not be tolerated. That every city or country will have its own unique time. That to be uniformity in the clocks of the world. That's why they introduced the standard clock. Standardatia, setting the standard. So for me, I try to say, I believe it was in 1882. Standardatia, Kriyat HaTeken, Shel Shonei Olam, David Shemispar Shonim Ba'olam, Yitztam same. Shemispar Shonim Ba'olam. Well,
number, different clocks, different zones.
Yeah, well, actually more than that because of the half-hour differences. Okay, in theory, there will be 24.
Theory.
Hashonim tiknim yuderka rakashnim kamim al kave orech 0, 15, 30 chulei. Chol medinot ba'olam yamtzu et hashon tikni. They will adopt the standard time. Hakrov lem b'yoter, which is closest to them. Ba'alon has b'im nosafim ba'inyan. They're going to give further explanations. Now, of course, the reason why Greenwich became the center of the universe is because the meeting to set this standard clock was held in Greenwich in England. I don't know if he's going to mention that. Okay. Greenwich, Shatayim plus 21 dakot. Well, even though Israel is 2 hours ahead of Greenwich Mean Time, it actually should be 2 hours and 21 minutes ahead of Greenwich Mean Time. So obviously it's rounded down to 2 hours. So that's why high noon will never be at high noon, except by coincidence. It won't be not an equinox day. On an equinox day in Eretz Yisrael, high noon would be at 12:21 p.m. Okay. Havdalei Azman on the other side. Havdalei Azman ben Shon and Tiknisha Altzei ben Shaot Shaon Alami. Shon Greenwich Hu Shatayim. Again, it's rounded off. Kol Amdina B'Tchum Shishon Echad. Kedei Shlo Yivatzu Mechitzot Malachtiyot Ben Chatzim Chalkei Mina Achat. So there shouldn't be differences between different parts of countries. Obviously, only smaller countries. Expands over 2 time zones. They'll have just 1 clock. So the limit of the time zone will be at the border of the country. Obviously, in a place in this like over here in Poland, Slovenia, Hungary, Serbia, North Kosovo, North Macedonia, Albania, right? The line zigzags there. But more dramatically, across the coast of Netherlands, Belgium, France, and Spain. Interesting that Portugal, they decided, is going to be the same time zone as England. But it leads to very fascinating things like Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, and Western Sahara are all in European time zone, even though they extend well past Portugal. Right, this happens frequently all over the world. Right, so if you go due south from Portugal, you go an hour You have to put your clock an hour ahead.
Yeah.
That's so on and so forth.
Like China. China crosses 5 time zones, but it's the same.
Oh yeah, I didn't even notice that. Right, China is all one big time zone, which is absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, why they did that? That seems reasonable. All right, I guess they had their cheshbon. It's interesting because in Russia, it seems to skip. There is no 8. There is no +8. It's like Dafka, China and Russia should be different, right? They go from +7 to +9, and China and Mongolia have the +8. Okay. So in the map here in the book, it's very poorly drawn. You really can't tell very much about different countries. Okay. חלוקת הכדור הארץ ל-24 אזורי זמן שונים, 360 מעלות אורך. I don't know, we can skip this. It's just it's obvious from the chart what it is. It's basically telling you what we see visually in written words.
Right.
And without going into on the bottom, they have a list of the different time zones, plus or minus the Greenwich Mean Time. There's nothing for us to see that because we see it in the map over here as well. How there are differences, and at the bottom left, he says obviously some of them go over the course of different time zones. Hasimun 0 plus 10. The Arbita Motzot, which he puts on the 0 from 0 to +10. Really? There's part of it is 0? Part of it is 0, Paul? I don't see what that means. Says that it means that Medina zu shechenet al 11 Ezorei Shot. Ezor Shot Rishon Ezor Shot Shelanu. The same one as Israel? Yeah, that's true. Oh, so the 0 plus 10 is going on not from Greenwich. It's going from Israel. So the first time zone in Russia is +3, and the last one is +12. It's not 11 time zones, is it? No, so it's okay. So he's going with Ukraine and these countries, which are no longer part of the Soviet Union, which are no longer part of Russia. When they're part of the Soviet Union, so it started with +2, and then it went to +12, and that was 11. Okay, so this book is outdated. Okay, basically I think that's the end of this page for our purpose. I don't think I have to go inside further than that. Next we come on 96 to show Zmaniot, which is going to be very interesting, and I think we'll leave for next time because it is more complicated.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Have a great week.
You too.
Amen.